welcome to this episode of AI. Let's talk about it. Today, I want to talk about fear-mongering and how fears over AI is being used to push an agenda of socialistic policies. Policies that we as a democracy may not necessarily want to support or at a very minimum, we should be aware of. So this video episode is going to take a look at some arguments that were presented in an article titled AI's Economic Peril that was published in the Journal of Democracy. In this article, the argument was made that artificial intelligence poses a significant threat to democratic institutions by exacerbating income equality and destabilizing labor markets. And to counteract these fears of exacerbated income inequality or the de-establishing of labor markets, the authors actually presented a bunch of policies that I'm, to be honest, I'm surprised the Journal of Democracy actually published these because, in my opinion, these policies are very socialistic in nature and threaten to, in themselves, destabilize the republic that we are currently living in. So I first want to differentiate between democracy and republics because it's important to understand the market-driven solutions and the protection of individual rights that are necessary as part of a democratic institution. So rather than applying redistributive policies to foster economic inclusivity, we need to rely on free market principles and the technological advancements of artificial intelligence that will actually serve to improve our democratic stability and prosperity. So, in recent years, the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence has sparked a widespread debate about its potential impact on various aspects of society, including things like the economy, labor markets, and our democratic institutions. So this article argued that integrating AI technologies is going to lead to significant economic disruptions. It's going to exacerbate income equality and undermine democratic stability. Now, if that doesn't instill fear in anybody that reads that article, I would be surprised because even reading it with a knowledge of artificial intelligence that I have, I was concerned, like, what are they talking about? What are they seeing that maybe I missed? They then proposed a series of socialistic policies aiming at mitigating these perceived threats. However, this perspective is overly pessimistic, and it fails to consider the historical resilience and the adaptability of our democratic republic and market economies when it has faced technological innovation in the past. My argument is that fear-mongering about AI's economic impact, this actually is going to be serving as a veil for advocating what I would consider to be extreme and socialistic policies that my fear will stifle future innovation and economic growth. So instead of succumbing to an alarmist view about artificial intelligence, I think it's important that we adopt a balanced approach that recognizes the potential benefit of AI, that promotes economic inclusivity through market-driven solutions, and that strengthens our democratic institutions without resorting to heavy-handed redistributive measures. So let's examine the distinct characteristics of democracies and republics and highlight the importance of preserving individual rights and promoting economic opportunities to ensure our political system's long-term stability and prosperity, even with the introduction and advent of artificial intelligence. So first, let's distinguish democracy and republics, okay? The perils of democracy will not come from artificial intelligence, like what was claimed in this article. It'll actually come from extreme and socialistic policies that they proposed. So fear-mongering and extremist perspectives will stifle emerging technology, not just artificial intelligence, but any future technology. It will stifle the creation of new opportunities or improving work conditions. So the claim that artificial intelligence will obviate the need for human workers altogether, leading to the collapse in labor demand. This is something they actually stated in their report. Artificial intelligence is going to eliminate the need for human workers altogether. Okay, right. In my opinion, this is the same thing as saying that Upton Sinclair's book, The Jungle, was going to shut down all slaughterhouses, right? I mean, let's face it, quite simply, that is an absurd notion. Artificial intelligence is not going to eliminate the need for human workers. And anybody that has read my articles, followed me on LinkedIn, or seen the things that I post, you know that I am a huge proponent of augmented artificial intelligence because I believe the human-centric model is important in any technology that we leverage, especially artificial intelligence, right? The two premises used to claim that artificial intelligence threatened democracy are directly tied to inequality undermines democracy and that democracy mitigates inequality. Okay, so let's talk about the difference between democracy and republic. So while I get that you might think that this distinction is not relevant, it does become critical when you start evaluating the policies that are proposed, not only by the authors of this particular article, but by the authors of any policies or regulations on artificial intelligence. So a democracy and a republic are actually distinct forms of government, even though they do share overlapping characteristics. So a democracy is a form of government in which people choose leaders by voting, right? Big emphasis is on the rule of the majority, where decisions are made based on the general population's will. That's a democracy. Now, a republic is slightly different because a republic is a government in which the supreme power resides in a body of citizens that vote, but it's actually exercised by elected officers and representatives responsible to us, the people, and that are governing according to the laws of the land. I mean, I get right now as I'm preparing this video that we are in the middle of election season with all of the rhetoric that goes along with that. All I'm trying to say is that a democracy is based on a government in which people choose leaders by voting, and a republic believes in the exercise of elected officers and representatives governing according to law. The big difference there is that the governance by law. So a republic operates under a framework of laws that actually protect individual rights and place constraints on the powers of elected officials. So while both democracies and republics value the principle of elected representation, a republic specifically incorporates mechanisms to safeguard against potential tyranny of the majority, ensuring that minority rights are protected within the rule of law. So while all republics are democracies in a certain extent, not all democracies are republics. Some democracies may lack the structured legal framework that defines a republic. And since we are a republic that already incorporates safety mechanisms that protect minority rights, we don't need to pass policies based on the fear of, oh my goodness, we're going to have a nation of people that can't work because of artificial intelligence replacing them. This is absurd. One of the things that was explicitly stated in this article is that artificial intelligence will change labor markets, and those changes, particularly if they increase income inequality, could be extremely hard for democratic institutions to adjust or recover from. So the focus is on economic impacts. We need to consider the dual nature of AI's influence. Yes, there may be disruptions. There may be significant economic growth. There's going to be innovation opportunities. All of these strengthen republics and democracies by creating more inclusive economic participation. Understanding the relationship between AI, economic inequality, and political systems is essential. However, it's equally important to approach this from a balanced perspective. AI-driven economic transformations can reduce inequality by creating new job opportunities, improving access to services, fostering economic inclusion through innovation. Policies should be written that focus on mitigating risks, yet still harness AI's potential to drive growth and democratic resilience, not penalizing companies that want to use artificial intelligence to operationalize and improve their profitability. Bell and Korinek, the authors of this particular article, and I do have a link to the article and the references in the description below, but they argue that AI will likely disrupt labor markets without intervention, and that it's going to lead to great inequality, it's going to undermine democracy. And they suggest that powerful corporations will gain more influence, and populist politicians are going to rise to power due to this increased inequality. This argument assumes a predominantly negative outcome from AI's impact on labor markets. So I want to show you something from history. And give me a second to bring this up here. So here is a chart that I found that talks about the historical precedents from past advancements and how they have affected our living standards. And so this was research that was done by Murphy that states the last 2 centuries have seen a startling increase in living standards, which have substantially improved the well-being of a majority of human beings on Earth. So this is a crucial time frame because in the past 200 years, we have moved from the Industrial Revolution to the information revolution, and we're now into emerging technologies. So I looked at our world data to find out what things that they looked at to kind of determine how our standard of living is. Now, I'm not talking about our standard of living as it pertains to the last 4 years or inflation or anything like this, right? That's a very narrow view of time. I'm talking about the last 200 years, okay? And you can see that poverty has decreased worldwide. Basic education has increased worldwide. Our literacy rates have increased. Democracy throughout the world has increased. Child mortality has decreased. And the use of vaccinations, while is a debate for another day, has also increased. All of this combined shows, as you can clearly see, that our living standards as a global community has improved. And this is with all of the technological advancements that we have seen through the Industrial Revolution, which moved us from an agrarian society to a technological society, and all the way through the ups and downs that we've had with the advancement of new technologies, including computers and computer technology and machine learning and artificial intelligence, and now these generative artificial intelligence and emerging technologies that we've seen come out within the last year or two. Another metric that was used by Murphy is real GDP per capita. And so let's pull that up so that you can see that. Okay, so over the past 50 years, and that's what this chart here shows you, the GDP per capita in the United States has experienced substantial growth despite facing various challenges. Yes, the 1990s saw a technology boom, globalization, and productivity gains that significantly boosted GDP per capita. Yes, the early 2000s were initially marred by the dot-com bubble burst and the 9/11 attacks. Yet, by the mid-2000s, experienced economic expansion continued. And then we had the 2008 financial crisis that, yes, it did result in a severe downturn, but we did recover from that. And throughout the 2010s, we had steady growth, and this was primarily driven due to technological advancements and increased economic stability. So despite the sharp decline in GDP per capita during the COVID 2019 pandemic and 2020, the US economy has rebounded strongly in the following years. Again, I'm not talking about the last 4 years. I'm not talking about what's happening with inflation or politics right now today. I am looking at the last 50 years where we've had so much technological advancement with computers and programming and machine learning to simply show that our long-term growth trajectory underscores the resilience and adaptability of the U.S. economy in the face of domestic and global challenges, and our strength as a republic. Note that the periods of substantial growth tied to the technological advances in the 1990s, 2010s, and again with the most recent surge in emerging technologies. So, claiming that inequality undermines democracy and that it's going to breed discontent and division among citizens and that it's going to change the political agenda all because of artificial intelligence is just wrong. It's fearmongering. It's driving fear into people that don't really know a lot about artificial intelligence so that they can pass legislation and regulation that will actually stifle our ability to use emerging technologies. It is true that high levels of inequality can pose challenges to democratic stability, but it's also important to consider how economic policies and market mechanisms can be used to promote equality. Encouraging entrepreneurship, supporting small businesses, fostering innovation can help distribute economic gains more broadly. So rather than focus on socialistic redistributive policies, which will actually dampen economic incentives, we need to have a balanced approach that promotes economic opportunities and maintains a level playing field that will sustain democracy and economic growth. Claiming that the only way to mitigate inequality is through progressive taxation, social safety nets, collective bargaining, all contradict what democracy and republics represent. Socialism is an economic and political system where the community collectively regulates the means of production, distribution, and exchange, okay? In such a system, cooperation is emphasized. Oh, all members of society are going to benefit from economic activities. We're going to redistribute wealth at the discretion of our leadership so that we're achieving a higher level of social equity, and we're going to support the welfare of all individuals within the community. Okay, yeah. The whole central goal of socialism is to create a system where resources and opportunities are distributed by other people, reducing what is seen as a perceived inequality within a capitalistic system. And so this is usually done through various mechanisms, such as progressive taxation, social welfare programs. I think it's important that we look at identifying alternative mechanisms for addressing the concerns about artificial intelligence in a way that does not threaten democracy or technology. To boldly claim that progressive taxation and corresponding wealth distribution, strong social safety nets, minimum wages, collective bargaining, safe and equitable treatment of workers, and more is the solution to artificial intelligence shows a complete disconnect. It's simply incomprehensible to me. And the policies that they are recommending, claiming it's addressing the fears of artificial intelligence, is actually, in my opinion, more dangerous to our democratic republic than artificial intelligence will be. I think it's more important that we foster a competitive and dynamic economy through free market principles. We can contribute to reducing inequality by creating more and diverse opportunities for people to grow and improve and learn more and transition. Investing in education and training programs that equip our workers, again, in a human-centric, augmented AI perspective, is going to help our people adapt to new job roles. Artificial intelligence is not going to eliminate every job. There's always going to be opportunities to transition. The example I like to think of, and you know what, I may be wrong, but if you're on a line and your job is to pull out the rotten tomatoes so that only the pretty good clean ones pass through the line, and artificial intelligence using computer vision and a simple mechanical paddle can remove those rotten tomatoes for you so you can go do something maybe a little bit more pleasant, I see that as a positive step for humanity, not a negative one. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe somebody out there really likes to pull out the rotten tomatoes. Me, I'd have to have a barf bucket right next to me on the line if that was my job. And so when we think about what roles artificial intelligence may or may not change, we need to think about, okay, what is it eliminating, i.e. a very disgusting danger, could be potentially dangerous, right? You're touching something that's rotten and has growth and microbes and mold or whatever on it, versus a more sterile environment, you know, because you can clean the paddles and not pass on those toxins or whatever. I mean, think about salmonella and all of that stuff, right? It's important that we look at artificial intelligence as a way of enhancing job qualities in a way that's going to see long-term benefits in productivity and innovation. We want to encourage businesses to adopt ethical AI practices, right? So I'm not saying, oh, anything goes. Yes, we want to make sure that the practices of using artificial intelligence are based on ethics, and that we provide training. We do need to provide training. This is going to revolutionize industry in the long term going forward. All emerging technologies have significant changes. I mean, imagine if we had said no to computers when Microsoft and Apple first came out, because you know what, I'm not going to need to have two secretaries. I only need one because she can be just as efficient on a computer as two of them were manually typing. You know, that it's absurd, right? But that's what they're trying to claim. They're trying to claim that this next iteration of technology is going to make us all unemployable. And I just, it just blows my mind. I think that it's also important that as businesses talk about artificial intelligence, that the frontline workers are involved in those decision-making processes on how AI implementation can come in, because they're on the front lines. They know what things are working. They know what things aren't working. They know what parts of the job, let's just face it, really suck, right? There's all kinds of jobs that have components to them that we may not like to do. And artificial intelligence might be a solution to those less pleasant responsibilities. We can do all of this in a balanced and inclusive manner without any sort of forced external socialistic regulatory requirements in order to do that. So in conclusion, I want to say that empowering workers is essential, but it should be done in a way that aligns with maintaining competitive markets and fostering innovation. While unionization can play a role, I think we need to explore flexible labor arrangements that allow workers to benefit from the dynamic nature of AI-driven industries, and that we need to encourage dialogue between employers and employees, investing in workforce development, and ensuring fair labor practices that balance protecting workers' rights while promoting economic growth. Okay, I am against adjusting tax codes so that AI and robots are not advantaged over human workers. Suggesting that tax incentives favor replacing humans with AI is again ridiculous. The claim that creating penalizing tax policies are going to help maintain the fiscal base for social insurance systems is ludicrous. Their controversial approach is going to do more harm and prevent investment in technology. So I think it is much more critical that we foster an environment that encourages innovation, encourages technological advancement, and that supports AI development, and that we structure our regulations and our taxes and our policies to support investment in technology and entrepreneurship in a way that complements human labor and creates new job opportunities. So I hope you found this interesting, our talk about AI. I will include in the description the links to the articles and to the quotes that I mentioned in this video discussion. If you have any questions about this topic or any other AI topic, please be sure to comment below and subscribe. I will try to present a new discussion on artificial intelligence next week. I hope to see you then. Bye.